Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I'm Shatay. We're the Hazes.
Welcome to the Love Haze podcast, where we believe that healing and wholeness are not just destinations.
That's right. We believe they're a journey. And here on the Love Haze, we talk about how to navigate through it.
Absolutely. So today, speaking of navigating, we're going to share some reviews and reflections on several of our vacations that we've taken, from poolside fun and proposals in Cancun to tiny houses in Tennessee, all the way to seafood and romance in Myrtle Beach. Welcome to our Black Love journey. Let's get right into it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
About these vacations, though.
Yes, ma'am.
So we love traveling. It's one of our favorite things to do. And we love creating new experiences. Right?
Yes.
And we started this Black Love Journeys conversation, several episodes ago. And we've taken a couple of trips over the past few years, but because we didn't review them and discuss them right away, didn't really feel like it made sense to us to do like individual episodes on them. So we're doing a roundup convo, if you will, on some of these vacations we've had over the past couple of years. So up for discussion today, we have our Cancun trip 2019, where I said yes to Will You Marry Me, the proposal vacation, which we had a great time, and we have lots of thoughts for that trip.
I have to tell y'all about how this woman acted, but go ahead.
We've got 2020, my birthday trip to a tiny house in Tennessee, maybe somewhere near Nashville, if I remember correctly. And then we've got a trip in 2021 to celebrate our first anniversary, which was in Myrtle Beach. So I'm going to share some thoughts on accommodations, how much we spent, reflections from them, would we go back again? And I look forward to it because we haven't had this conversation with our Love Haze people. So it'll be really great. So can we start off the conversation, though, with this idea of Black love traveling well? What does that mean to you?
So for me, Black love traveling well just means that we take love to every space that we go to, that our love is ever present no matter where we are.
Yeah.
And when we take trips, whether they're domestic or international, that this Black love comes along with us, and it is renewed and rejuvenated there. Yeah. And we give ourselves permission to go and live a full life, to have fun with each other, to enjoy each other, to create new experiences together, to take our partnership and our trust for each other to chart a new territory together. Yeah. We do it and we do it well. We look damn good doing it.
Hey, and I'd add that it's not just our romantic love. Like our people travel with us, our family, we travel with family. And it's just like love, all love, not just romantic, familial, friendship, platonic, whatever. And it all travels well. And it's all beautiful, like wherever we go. So the trips that we took for Cancun, and it's been a couple years, but if I remember correctly, we went through a travel agent for that one and spent about it was like 5-day trip maybe. One of those packages that included flight and accommodations at an all-inclusive. And this was a new all-inclusive, which we'll tell you more about, but spent about $1,700 each on that. Again, all-inclusive that included flight, accommodations, about 5 days, right? So any additional money we took was for excursions, if we did them, and just kind of tips.
And the dough that I spent trying to propose to this woman, trying to put on a surprise proposal.
Yeah.
Over my birthday weekend.
Yeah.
At that. A little bit extra dough, but it was worth it.
Yeah. So collectively, $4K-ish, which for an international trip is not awful. And as we've said before, Scotty loves putting his trips on layaway. So it's something that we always plan months in advance for, so we can put a couple $100s on it consistently. And then for the tiny house trip, that was really affordable. There were no flights involved. We drove from Atlanta. When you factor in food and the travel, and I think we only stayed for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, like a weekend trip.
Yeah. A weekend trip. You said less than $1,000, maybe even closer to $500 mark.
Yeah, definitely closer to $500. Tiny house, only about, I think it was $91 a day.
That's incredible.
Or something like that.
I didn't know that.
We had 2 friends that went with us who stayed in a separate tiny home. Mm-hmm. And the idea of a tiny house seems very small, but it's actually more like the size of an expanded hotel room.
Yeah.
It has all its little, you got your kitchen, but it's really like a full-size kitchen, but it's like a smaller space.
Yeah.
So you can cook, eat, drink, had fire pit, everything that you need really there. You just take it as if you're going to a suite in a hotel room, and bring your food, bring your drinks, everything you need.
Yeah. And I would say that is about the tiniest house experience that I think I could do. So he knows me well. Like, I couldn't do no off the grid, like 200 square feet situationship. So that tiny house experience was perfect for me. And then the other one we had was Myrtle Beach, 1 year anniversary trip. Another road trip that we took, another 3-day kind of experience, and that one was less than $1,000 as well, right?
Yep.
And we actually stayed in a hotel there, which we'll tell you more about. So where do you want to start this conversation? I mean, we usually start with most favorite moments, but this is different in that we're talking about 3 different trips all in one conversation. So how do you want to navigate like what your favorite moments from those were?
I think we'll start with the one that happened earliest, of course, which was the proposal trip to Cancun. So this ended up being a group trip.
Yep.
And initially it was just going to be an us trip. And then we decided to expand to our friends and stuff.
You decided to expand.
I decided to expand to our friends and stuff because I had some ideas around how I wanted to propose. And extended it to some of our single and married friends. The married folks ended up being the ones that came, and it just worked out perfectly. The extra dough that I had to spend was for a photographer and for everything to be recorded, to have the proposal set up there. And everything that I wanted to do with that, all of that was just the extra dough kind of stuff. So I had to shell out a couple $100 for that kind of stuff. Travel agent worked with me and brought us some proposal signs and everything that we needed for that trip. Favorite moments, I think, was, I have a few favorite moments from that trip, but I think the entirety of the trip, like being surrounded by all of our people, having this love that surrounds us, us all being in like matching shirts. So all the guys had shirts that said like loving her, honoring her, being there for her, encouraging her, all of those things. So each one of the guys had a shirt with a different saying on it. And each one of the women had a shirt that said love is. So each couple were matched with. So love is encouraging her, love is honoring her, all of those things. So those people trying to get Shatay into her shirt and her not knowing what it was for. She did not want any parts of it. Can you please tell them why you wouldn't get in this shirt?
This is what you want to talk about on your favorite moment?
Absolutely. It's my favorite.
Yeah. I want to bring that to your attention. Every time it comes up, then that is your favorite moment.
Yes.
It didn't make sense to me, y'all. So my thoughts were, here we are on my boyfriend's birthday trip. That's what I thought this trip was about. And my friends there were supposed to be helping me decorate the room in secret. So blow up balloons, and I had some banners, and I had some other things because, again, this was a birthday trip. There was all kinds of foolishness going on with things that he had tried to plan, talking about his birthday. I didn't plan the birthday trip. He gonna send out a note to the group saying like his friend, his bestie, and him have planned this dinner without me. So I'm the girlfriend and I ain't planning no birthday dinner, which I had an issue with. So I was already salty. Like, I don't know, I'm gonna do my own thing. So me and my friends trying to like blow up these balloons and get prepared for what I think is his birthday situation. And we were having a dinner that night that I thought was his birthday dinner, again, that I had not planned. So I was like, I'm not about to be late to the thing I didn't plan. And I'm the girlfriend. And it's going to look like I'm like a slacker ass girlfriend. That's not what I'm here for. So I get in the room. I should have known, and I don't know why I didn't, but they are cute. They had on these same shirts. They had on these jean shorts. Their face was like made up and just beat. And I'm like fresh out the shower in some joggers and a t-shirt and flip-flops with my hair pulled up in a bun, thinking I'm going to do these decorations and then we're going to get dressed and go to dinner. So I'm there and they all like put the shirt on. I told my friend who's a soror that I take pictures of sorors in the shirt. And I was like, I'm not doing that. That's not what I came here for.
Absolute rejection of the plan.
I have to go get dressed for my dinner my man's dinner is tonight. And then they were like, okay, well, we'll just take pictures. And then I didn't have no face, no nothing. And so they were like, okay, we'll just take pictures like of from the neck to the waist so they could at least see the shirt. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So then they were like, we're leaving the room to take the pictures. And I was like, that's stupid. Like, why can't they come here? Why can't we just use our phone? None of it made sense to me. So here we are for a dinner that is soon come, traveling all the way from the room to the lobby of the resort, which is not close. I could be getting dressed so I could be cute like they are. And I was just like dragging my feet the whole time. I was like, I don't want to do this. This is a waste of my time.
I'm getting texts, by the way. Like, the other wives are in a tizzy. So they're like, yo, she won't go. I'm like, what do you mean she won't go? Like, y'all have one job to get this lady to the proposal place. They're like, yeah, she don't want to wear a shirt. She doesn't want to take pictures. We tried everything. She's not trying to go. I'm at the proposal spot, like trying to get my nerves together. They've decorated everything with rose petals, all that kind of stuff. The rose petals start to blow away. Meanwhile, this lady in the room blowing up balloons and doesn't want to come to the spot. And I'm like, yo, this is bananas. And the whole time, so a little bit of background, because she felt the way about the planning and how things were going down, she resisted the entire time. Right. And every time I turn around, we land in the bed and she like, I just don't understand. Like, how is your friend over here and he planning your birthday?
And I'm like, what am I here for? It didn't make sense to me. And then not only was a friend planning the dinner, I was not pulled in on any parts of it. Does that make sense, y'all? Does it make sense? Like, so your male friend is planning the dinner and your lady is not a part of it. I was just like, all of this is all bad. And now I'm about to be late to the dinner that I had no parts planning because we got to go take a picture in these t-shirts. That's how I felt. Anyway, it drug my feet all the way to the lobby. And I didn't notice that the one friend, April, she was just acting so strange to me. She just kept like, okay, I'll be right back. And then she would like run away. And then when she ran away, she like passed us. So I was like, I'm still just salty because I was like, I just rather be getting dressed right now. So I guess that's why I was oblivious to all of it. But as soon as we got to the lobby and I heard the song, the music playing, and then I saw the flowers, I was just like, wait, this is actually happening. I immediately was in tears. And then my first words were, I look horrible.
Yeah.
Like,
it was the first thing. So them cameras going.
Yeah.
And everybody laid out, everybody's uniformed up,
and they
ready.
Were so cute.
Everybody looked great.
Except for me.
I look horrible. Like, word. Yeah. That's what's up.
So that was your favorite moment.
The favorite moment was the look on your face when you finally hit that corner. You realized what was going on, and it just broke you down. Yeah. And so I got all my courage together after that. I was ready to get my life, but everything worked out perfectly. But there were points before that where I was like, my boy was pulling me to the side, like, she keeps asking questions. She keeps pulling me to the side, asking questions. I was like, she got one more time, and I'm just going to give her this damn ring and tell her to get out of my face. But absolutely, my favorite moment was the look on your face when she finally got there.
That was, that whole moment was definitely my favorite from the whole trip. And we had some really great moments from the trip. We'll talk about some of the not so great moments too, but just the time with our people, that first day in the pool. It's something about first days in pools with us and our people that we really enjoy. But that first day, just kind of being all out there and no worries and just drinks and like breaking bread together and just have that dedicated time with them was really nice. But definitely by far the proposal obviously was just like the best thing since sliced bread. And I had always said I wanted to be surprised. I didn't want to know. And I was like 100% surprised. Had no clue.
Yeah, it ain't many more surprises I got. What a haze.
But what did you learn also? That you were supposed to give me a task. And if I had my task, for example, planning your birthday dinner, I wouldn't have been bothering y'all.
I should have given you something to do. And I will never not give you a task.
There you go.
Again.
There you go.
Because you're just very thorough. And you have to know the ins and outs of everything.
It just has to make sense. Like, don't be trying to ask me to do stuff that doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, I'm going to be like, what are we doing that for? It's not practical. It's not logical. I'm like...
And you just don't want to have to answer all those questions. Just don't. Just don't do it.
Okay. So, favorite moment from Tiny House?
You tell me your favorite from that one.
Even though it was like a bit of a haze, or one of the hazes, walking to the waterfall was one of my favorites because it was so adventurous. I felt so many things. I was scared because it was like a lot of heights with no rails. But it was also really beautiful because it was like just the green of the trees. I don't even know if we call it a forest or I don't know what you call it. It's not a trail. It's not a path or a trail. I mean, it was a trail within I don't even know what you call it, but it was like
technically a trail.
Trees everywhere. So that was gorgeous. And just the time, like that time in nature with you and our friends was really nice. And we had some really nice intimate moments the whole time, but just like trying to find that waterfall, all of the emotions getting there. I think we went a really long ass way out of the way.
Right.
Getting there and then being no water there whatsoever. In every picture we saw on IG, like everybody else had, like
it was a full-on waterfall.
We had a sprinkle.
All of the pictures on IG, and we're like, we about to hit this trail. We gonna make it. Almost feeling like I was gonna die on some of those rocks and stuff, trying to get there, and then getting there, and it was just like Jesus just turned the water off.
It was like on a drip,
and I was like, what is happening?
And then to leave, and like a day or two later, somebody posted there. And it was like full on. We were like, this is ain't this butter? But that was my favorite. It was just a really nice experience in nature, which we haven't had any as a couple like that for real. Not in that way. You know, we've been beachside and outdoors in that regard, outside, just like walking the neighborhood, but it was like really immersed in like nature and the green of it with the earth. And all the things that come with it. And just that was really nice to me.
And I had to select a tiny house because, you know, you have to glamp with my wife. She does not do outside bathrooms at all.
Nope.
There is no thing that has to be a toilet. My wife doesn't even do porta potties.
No.
So.
That's not my calling. You know?
It had to be something different in that way. So my wife enjoys being like around nature. She enjoys seeing nature.
Adjacent.
Yeah, she's nature adjacent. Like she loves the green and all of those things, but she doesn't want anything that lives there to touch her. So I had to be very smart in planning the trip. So tiny house was really the groove for us. I think my favorite moments were the times that we spent actually in the house.
Yeah.
With our friends, like cooking, eating, playing games. Those types of things. So we cooked one day in ours, and they cooked the next day in theirs. Yeah. And it was just the friendship and the fellowship, which is likely what it's always going to be for me.
Yeah.
I just enjoy time, fellowshipping together, I don't even enjoy eating out at restaurants as groups that much because I don't feel like there's ever enough time to really fellowship in a way. So the fellowship was definitely my favorite part. Of course, being there with you.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was a really nice trip. I'm not gonna lie, and I'll say this for the the haze maybe, but I had some moments of prayer when we were driving through those streets, and there was a whole lot of political signs, and
we definitely on the turn in, there was like a big Confederate flag up in there.
And I was like, oh, keep us in this space. But we
immediately went into prayer.
Yeah, we didn't have any issues, but you never know being in the South, and that's just the reality of our experience here in the U.S. and I'm sure everywhere. And then Myrtle Beach. Favorite moments with Myrtle Beach. I think you know what I'm going to say. We went to this one restaurant, seafood spot, lots of really great seafood in Myrtle Beach. And I have to say, we are beach bunnies. Well, I don't know if you can call me in that, but we like to be, we like to go to spots where the beach is because we like the sound of the waves. We like to be in the water. We like to pray in the water and all of that. We had gone to Myrtle Beach though in February. And so there was none of that. And Scotty did a really good job of, it was cold, getting us a room, which I think is also one of the hazes, getting a room that was beachfront. So we at least saw it. And if we wanted to hear it, we could. But again, it was really cold. So there wasn't a lot of that. Most of our time was really spent kicking it and eating really good food. So we found this restaurant, Fisherman something, but they had a market there where you could buy fresh, uncooked seafood. And then it's also a restaurant. We were in this place, and I don't know who was in control of the music that day, but they had on some Spotify or Pandora list or Apple Music list. It was like Anita Baker Radio or something. That food was so good. That music was so good. The service was so good. And I just sang my heart out and ate crab legs all night. And I had such a good time in that place doing that. We were like one of the last people to leave because it was just so dope. It was good food, good company, good music.
And that wasn't even the main night that we had planned to celebrate our anniversary. We had booked some like super smancy steakhouse,
which was also nice.
And it was nice. Yeah. It just wasn't as good as that spot. And I think that, some of the best times kind of come, when they're unexpected. And it just ended up being perfect. Just
we had on sweats and jeans, and just like regular. It was just so good.
Everybody had basically cleaned out that downstairs space where we were. We had the music and the turn up and just
just turning up, just the two of us.
Right, just drank good drink, old fashions and all that good stuff. And
that was a nice
good conversation, good music. The whole vibe ended up, being what we needed it to be. And I think for me, that is definitely a part of, like the idea that Black love travels well. Yeah. Like the love surrounds us no matter where we go.
It's a vibe everywhere we go. Yeah. I would definitely agree. Least favorite moments then. So we didn't talked about a whole bunch of lovely, wonderful moments, but we definitely, each trip has its own.
Are we starting back at Cancun?
Whatever. If you want to work your way back or forwards, it's up to you.
So for Cancun, I think least favorite, outside of the funny stuff with this one being a haze and I have wanting to know everything, that was not my favorite. But least one of the moments that I have to just talk about is that I had one proposal place planned that was right outside really of our room. And I even brought it to Shantae's attention at one point, and I was just like, oh, that's a nice little deck out there. I had planned for us to be over in the sand and how everybody's going to be standing. Wake up the morning of the proposal, and it's a full-on monsoon outside the room, and I'm in a panic. I'm like, what are we going to do? I'm texting. Shantae's relaxed. She's over there like, oh, this is a great day to sleep in. And we'll just change all the plans and we'll just kick it. And then we'll just go, for your birthday dinner. And I'm like, this is not supposed to go this way. What am I going to do? So I got my best friend. I'm texting him. He's texting the folks from the hotel. And they're like, we got you an alternative spot. Everything's going to be cool. And I'm like, I don't want to be there. We're supposed to be on the beach in the sand. We're supposed to draw this heart in the dirt. We're supposed to do all this supposed to happen like this. And it is storming outside. Do y'all not hear me? And they're like, we got you. It's figured out. So I have to escape out of the room from her. She's like, where you going? I'm like, oh, man. Me and Scott.
We're going to work out.
Yeah, we're going to work out. Put on full-on gym clothes. To go and scout out other spots, all that stuff. So Yeah, but other than that, the real least favorite moment I think was we were in the pool together with our other friends, and security came and told us that we couldn't be in the pool after a certain time, like after 9 o'clock or
Yeah.
something. And then several days and several times after that, we saw clear people in the pool doing what
Yeah.
they wanted to be doing undisturbed. So really felt like we were discriminated against in that way.
Yeah.
And also just a couple other things that they did that were just kind of sus. They told us that there was no club at the resort. We
Yeah.
go in and find that there's a full on club there.
Well,
And they just weren't calling it a club. And I don't know if they were just trying to keep us away. I don't know what the groove was.
this is what I think it was. I would agree. First, I'll say the place that the proposal ended up happening was way better, in my opinion, than the place it was going to.
It worked out
It
perfectly.
was like this indoor space that was open air overlooking the beach. So again, we could be indoors but still experience the beach. It was way better, in my opinion, than the beach could have been. So God worked that out. I think the issue with the what we didn't enjoy, if you could remember the name of the hotel just so we could share it, it was like hotel is something in the Riviera Maya, but it was like Haven Riviera Maya or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was very new at the time, and so the service just didn't feel established, and so we didn't have a great experience with our whatever you call it, butler, concierge person. It was never, we could never find him. Every time we reached out via WhatsApp or whatever the method was, or the phone number, could never get him. Even when we ordered room service, it took like an hour to get there. And this is like, we've paid to be in a swim up, like special package room. I forget what you call it. And the service didn't support that. And so the service of the entire, I guess, hotel, and there were really nice people there, but the overall service just didn't match what we paid for. And then to have a swim up room and not be able to be in your own swim up pool after like 9 o'clock is just ridiculous when you're on a vacation like that. And to his point, it just felt like the service that we got didn't match maybe some of the service that other folks got. So we won't ever go back to that property in particular. It didn't leave I didn't really enjoy it at all.
I enjoyed everything else, but again, because Black Love travels well, like we had a great time because of who we are and the people that we were surrounded with, and the love that came with us. The service, no. Service
is also important. If we're spending our money, like we just want the service to match what we're paying for, and so we weren't asking for ridiculous things. Just like to be present, I think would have been helpful. And we didn't have that, so. Least favorite there. Least favorite in Tennessee was really just getting there. Like, so the Confederate flags, like all of that part. If I had to say anything about the property, I don't think I have any least favorites, quite honestly. It was such a good trip. Maybe I wish we could have fired up the fire pit.
Yeah.
That's probably one thing, like, if we go back, I want to do that. But I think it's just like the neighborhood and having to navigate through these backwoods and you don't know about the people around it is probably like my least favorite part of that.
I think that was like an add-on to like buy the firewood, things like that for the fire pit. And we just spent so much time kicking it. We didn't really get a chance to go outside. It rained a couple of days too.
Yeah, maybe like that first day or so. But it was like very woodsy and outdoorsy. You could like hear the bugs and insects at night. And I think somebody saw a deer at night. Like it was just really pleasant and nice. And like even I don't know if our porch had it, but I think theirs was like screened in. That would have been nice. Yeah, because being out there and like all the bugs and stuff, you don't want any parts of that. But it's still nice to like hear it. And
screened in porch is great for people who are nature adjacent.
Yes, and that is.
I can see all the things, but they ain't coming to touch me.
I want to hear it. I want to smell it, but I want you to stay in your space and I stay in mine, and we can coexist that way.
I keep telling you that it's nature. The whole thing is their space.
I'm like, get me out these people nature then. Like, I don't want any parts of it. And then Myrtle Beach, our room was just really old. And Scotty lit them a new one, I think, on the reviews. But where did we stay again?
It was like a Holiday Inn resort. I think.
And they had newer,
Yeah, they had one that was newer, Nexus, that I originally booked in, but they sold me on an upgraded room that was beachfront, that had the beachfront view. And so with that oceanfront view, basically it was a downgrade to an older hotel.
It was like dusty.
It was just kind of dusty feeling and that kind of stuff. But still, the view was great. The patio was great. All of those things. Everything just was not as new as I would have liked it to be. But great space and all that kind of stuff. It just could have been newer.
And there are properties that, like, it could be, the decor can be more traditional and historic, and it still feel, I don't want to say clean. That feels really dramatic, but this just felt old and dusty. And I don't know if it's because it was beachfront, and so I don't know if like sand would blow in there or something. But it just felt, the energy, the space, the couch just felt gritty. Like just we even put like sheets over the couch when we were sitting.
Did. I forgot that.
It just felt just like, dusty is like the best word I can think of.
We're both kind of hotel snobs a little bit too.
A little bit. You just want to travel how you want to travel. I'm definitely not the type of person I would travel like hostel wise. Like I'm gonna just go take a backpack and like sleep in hostels and things. That's not me at all. If I could glamp everywhere I went, I think that would be my
absolutely
preference. For sure. What's the haze?
I think the haze is mostly in the planning and curating of the trip. But even that's not too bad though. Because I think that, even when you plan and you, for us, even if we're doing a group trip, we like to have loose plans, which means they can change at any moment. We say that we want to do 1 or 2 or 3 things together, but people are free to opt in or opt out. Free to be on a resort or not, and free to really operate as they please. I think the expense sometimes can be a haze, but like I said, I love to put my vacations on layaway. It's the best thing ever. If you grew up in a household and your mom put your Christmas gifts on layaway, just don't know. The first time I got a job and I was able to put some stuff on layaway, it's like you pay a little bit of money and then at the end, like this is mine right now. Vacations is like that for me. People laugh at me when I say I put my vacations on layaway, but I absolutely do. I love it. Paying a little bit of money when I get paid and just eat away at that cost. And after that, especially going to all inclusive, you're done.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to worry about anything else except tip money.
Yeah. And another way to do that could be for those who would prefer, just put it on your credit card, get them points. And then you could pay a little bit each month on the credit card. But either way, I would say in response to that, like to navigate through it, just plan ahead. And now we're starting to get into I'm starting to travel more, follow more of these travel profiles on IG, Black Travel Feed and Black and Abroad. And these people are like going places and they seem to have these travel hacks that we know nothing about. And so they're not paying, they're paying close to nothing for their trips. And so I would like to figure that out as a next to do.
Absolutely.
Because people are going some amazing places. Like who wants to go to Iceland? Like people out here wanting to go to like all these interesting places, and that's kind of cool.
Another haze from just one of the trips, and I guess this kind of circles us back around to like least favorite. I think being in Cancun in Mexico, you can't drink the water.
Oh yeah, and we didn't even get in the water that time either. I've forgotten all about that. There was like all this seaweed or something that had washed up to the shore. We didn't even step foot into the ocean that trip.
And so not being able to get in the ocean and then drinking the water. So we thought we had a good plan for not drinking the water, just because the water is not filtered that well in Mexico. And they said that at the resorts is not a problem, but we both still brushed our teeth with the water. And if you know anything about Montezuma's revenge, about day 4 in that trip, talking about your stomach bubbling and all that just can't hold anything down. It's awful.
We got sick.
So
we weren't the only ones. Maybe a couple other people on the trip also got sick.
It was like one couple that didn't get sick.
Yeah.
And it's just unpleasant, uncomfortable. You can't really enjoy like the food and stuff, but just because your stomach is always bubbling.
Yeah, and it was like we brushed our teeth, and it could have also been salad, like trying to eat better, and maybe they like washed the salad with the water, and it just I forgot about that too.
Yeah, we tried to plan for all of those things, but still caught up with us. So
it's just price you pay, I think, when you just take on these trips. So he's been back to Cancun since then. I'm still just kind of, even though I love the proposal and that experience is beautiful, I'm still kind of like side-eyeing Cancun, like, I don't have to go back there. I can go somewhere else. It's just that the combination of all of those things. The service wasn't amazing at this resort, and that's supposed to be a newer resort. Maybe they've worked out the kinks now, but couldn't get it in water. And we got sick. I'm cool.
Done deal.
Yeah, I'm done. Three.
So that answers the next question about whether or not you would go back. So it's a no for you on going back to Cancun.
Just for now, there's so many other places we could see and do. I don't feel like there was anything that's drawing me back to Cancun anytime soon. Myrtle Beach, I'm kind of cool on also. Like, I think there are other places I would like to go with you that the water, you know how I feel about brown water too. It's just kind of like, it was nice, but I would go back for the food 1000%. But
the food will bring Shatay anywhere.
And Tiny House I would too. I would go back there.
Yeah. I love the Tiny House experience. Yeah. I would definitely do that again. Myrtle Beach, I would want to go when it's warmer.
Yeah.
And we could do like some area attractions.
Yeah.
So our first anniversary, of course, we're a year into the pandemic at that time. So most stuff was still shut down.
Yeah.
So we just went somewhere where, people were still a little bit open, but all of the things like the boardwalk in Myrtle Beach, none of that was open. So we didn't get to enjoy any of those things. We were just at Myrtle Beach. So it wasn't a prime time to really enjoy everything that Myrtle Beach has to offer. And it was cold.
Yeah. So
it's just, I think it's the time of year that you can do it. So I would definitely give it a second chance. Cancun, I think is, like Shatay said, I've been back since then and had a good experience, a boys trip. Took my nephew on his first international boys trip with a couple of my other homies. So it ended up being a pretty good trip. So I would go back just because it's inexpensive to be international there. It wouldn't be my first choice. There are a lot more places that I want to go. So circling back to Cancun, I don't think it's something that I would do immediately, but I would still go. Yeah,
there's so many places that I want to see that I wouldn't spend the time I have alive nor the funds going back just this moment.
So what I heard you say is never in life am I going back to
I didn't say that, but if somebody else invites us and like they're planning a trip and the place happens to be Cancun, of course, but I wouldn't choose Cancun.
Right, we wouldn't curate a trip there.
No.
I dig it.
But some really great experiences. Any reflections from our vacations, those three in particular?
I think that every vacation that we've taken is just helped our love to grow.
Yeah.
I think being able to experience new things together is always healthy. I trust you. My road dog for real.
Yeah.
So,
person. I agree. I was sitting here thinking, like, what is the reflection? If I could sum it all up, it's just thinking back to the very first time we traveled, and we've said this about our relationship in general. At least I know I have. From Destin, and then I think about every single trip, even after that, it's just felt like home. Even with like the not so great parts of the trips, it's just always been this feeling of like I'm still good, I'm with my person or my people, and
we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, we're still fine.
It's gonna be dope.
Yeah, we still managed to have a good time despite some of the things that like we're not crazy about.
So we definitely turned up in the Knot Club in Cancun.
Exactly.
We brought our entire crew in there, and it was the groove.
Yeah.
We'll always remember you and rolling up in my face like, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it.
I was like, not in your face. I was not in your face. You just made that up. I was on the dance floor, feet away from you. Feet.
Looking at me though.
I wasn't. I was like on the dance floor with your friends, like talking about just wait for it.
I was like, she gonna feel stupid tomorrow.
I was not in his face. I was just doing my Beyonce thing, not even studying you. Also,
he was checking for me.
I wasn't checking for him.
Who's gonna get that ring? So
I wasn't checking for him. What I did sing in his face, though, y'all, because his memory is just obviously not that great. Before we went on the trip, so it was kind of it was maybe like a week or two after our kind of like 1 year becoming official, and so we had gone to St. James Live, which I love. Would love to go back soon. And they opened up although the music has become way more jazzy, but this time was like a cover band. And the first song they opened up with was Alicia Keys' Unthinkable. And I did say, if you ask me, I'm ready in his face. I did not do Single Ladies in his face though. So that's incorrect information, sir.
Agree to disagree.
But I was.
I'm right.
Doing all of that. Anyways. So as we bring this conversation to a close, we had a lot of moments over these vacations, these 3 in particular. What's the music for you for our vacations? The idea of Black love traveling well. What's the music for that?
For me, it is this song by Tim's called Free Mind. And in the song, it just talks about this being the peace that you cannot buy. So the idea of bringing love with you wherever you go, of traveling and discovering together, just is a piece that can't be purchased, to be able to travel in that way, regardless of where you're going. Whether we're taking a trip to Alabama to see my parents, or going to Houston to see yours, if we're going to, just up the street to experience something new together, having that kind of peace and partnership, that is really something that is not only solid, but is rare. And I honor it. And it means the world to me to have a partner where there is peace in this space. And I want to take that peace and that love with me when I go and explore places. So,
amen, baby. Very well said.
Free mind.
Free your mind, and the rest will follow. That wasn't it, but that was beautiful.
Right. We have loose association sometimes. This whole mental health thing that we'll talk about later.
Did you just diagnose me?
Identified a symptom.
Child. And on that note, as we always say, life will always present you with a haze, but you have everything. We all have everything that we need right now in this very moment and every moment to navigate through it.
And you're not alone. So join us next time, and we'll continue to take the journey together. Thanks for being with us, y'all. Peace.
Colin.